I'm going to round up this direct with a few questions from supporters, starting off with this one from Guy Lucero. I'm not excited about the leaked Xbox Series X refresh console, but that doesn't mean it's not the right thing for Microsoft to do. If Sony can release a PlayStation 5 Pro with meaningful upgrades, in other words, a console that doesn't cost a fortune and is significantly more powerful, then is Xbox in trouble? But can Sony do it? If they can, you'd think Microsoft would follow. But it doesn't sound like they plan to. I'm not sure how much we can speculate on any of this since all we have are rumours and leaks. What do you all think? I think to begin with, we can speculate because this isn't a rumour or a leak. It is a leak, but it's a massive one, which basically gives us, a freeze frame in time of what Microsoft are actually thinking whenever this document was created. Oliver, what do you think about this concept of a PlayStation 5 Pro coming along with meaningful upgrades and Microsoft just sits where it is? Thoughts?
Well, let me put it in terms of my own behavior. When last generation started, I was mostly playing on PS4 because it was more powerful, then PS4 Pro. Then I switched to Xbox One X. That was my lineage. So with this, I mean, if the PS4 Pro is delivering a much better experience, or rather PS5 Pro is delivering a much better experience than Xbox, I have to imagine there's going to be a group of gamers who are looking at those two consoles and who are making more the choice to play games on PlayStation. That would be my concern. I'd also be concerned about, like, let's say Sony is shipping a PS6, Microsoft is shipping an Xbox 5, whatever they end up calling it. Sony then has access to these PS5 Pro titles to run it under backwards compatibility. If we assume, as I think is more likely than not to be the case, that Sony will pursue a more iterative model with their next console, right? To ensure backwards compatibility because they have such a huge market share. So in terms of what I think it's unfortunate that Microsoft is choosing to sit this one out because Sony is going to have the performance dominance if they do produce this console for a good 4 years, potentially, of this generation. So, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it, personally.
Yeah. Thoughts, Alex?
I mean, I've said my piece about PS5 Pro on our last Direct. I think it does leave, if there's PS5 Pro, it leaves Microsoft in the awkward situation where they just can talk about, but we have Starfield, or we have these exclusives, which could be good. I mean, I want Microsoft to actually have meaningful games coming out on their platform instead of just holding out for 3 years for the next Halo Infinite debacle to happen. So if they can, at least in that time period, push the fact that they have interesting games coming out on their platform, then maybe that's all they really need anyway, since they're not going to be being able to pull the power card anymore out.
Yeah. I don't know what to make about this. I mean, the concepts that Microsoft at least is discussing, a cost-reduced Xbox Series X for 2024 that's still at the same great price of $500. It suggests to me that one of the reasons they didn't do a Pro console is they don't believe that they can actually make an economically viable one. So the question is, can Sony do this? And it looks as though, if they're going to be producing a console that's got 60 compute units over the 36 in the current one, it's going to be pretty pricey to make, probably in the same way that PlayStation 4 Pro was. But it's interesting to me that the 5 Pro specs we've seen so far, they aren't talking about machine learning, to the best of my knowledge. They aren't talking about, 24 gigs of memory. It is basically what the Pro was, which is like an investment in silicon and some, tweaks elsewhere. So I do think they could probably do a machine for $599 that will be a meaningful improvement over the existing PlayStation. Question is, do we need it? Here's the thing, right? I think that the split of standard versus Pro consoles last generation was like 80-20. So 20% of people bought the more advanced hardware. Kind of suggests the market for it is inherently limited, right? What I will say, though, is that when you do have that hardware out there, when you've got a console that is like the One X, that is delivering markedly superior experiences, and it just basically gives you Halo product status, which I think is kind of priceless. It's the NVIDIA playbook, really. You know, they believe that by having the most powerful hardware around, even if their lower end products aren't as powerful, the halo effect kind of permeates down to the cheaper products. It's a great headline generator, certainly. And certainly when I think back to Xbox One X, the machine could do no wrong. And by extension, the underperforming nature of the original Xbox One was eclipsed, diminished. When Red Dead Redemption came out, we were talking about how the best way to play was on Xbox One X, because it was by a long chalk. What we weren't really talking about is that the worst way to play was on Xbox One S. So yeah, this is really interesting sort of psychological stuff here, and I think this is maybe one of the reasons why a Pro console is coming. And Sony clearly thinks it's worth it and could make some money out of it. Microsoft thinks otherwise. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But I think if they can deliver a 60 compute unit part, and it is delivering something like 3080 level horsepower, 6800 XT level horsepower, that's quite compelling, right? That's certainly a decent upgrade, and I'd just be really interested to see what the developers could do with it.